We take you to the Fairfax Brewfest, an annual event that traditionally kicks off the beer season. The Fairfax Chamber of Commerce hosted the 14th annual Brewfest event at the Fairfax Pavilion that traditionally kicks off the beer season. The weather was good, the food was excellent, and the beer sold out. Marin Profile not only got a taste of the event, but we were later invited to interview a local brewmaster. So I'm here with Christian Kazikoff, the master brewer at Iron Springs Brewery here in Fairfax, and I hear that this is a very popular destination after the Brewfest event.
Yeah, we're very busy after that festival.
Now looking at this looks like a science project to me. So, and actually making a beer, and it's your responsibility to do so, I understand, is to craft a beer that is aromatic as well as pleasing to the palate. So what is the process to making a good beer?
So the process here, and I got it set up in the order of when we would add the ingredients. It's the four basic ingredients, which is also the German Reinheitsgebot, which is just malt, water, hops, and yeast. And this particular setup I've got here, it's a little heavy on the caramel and crystal or dark crystal malt. That would probably give it make it an amber beer. But the way it works is we would add this water to the malt at a hot temperature, and what that'll do is it'll start this chain reaction of these enzymes that are in the malt to start converting itself from starch to sugar. And that's where we want. We want to get the sugar, and that's what will be used to ferment it out and make alcohol. The malt also gives the color and the body to the beer.
That's the dark part.
That's
right
the
here.
dark. Yeah. Most of it is made up of what's called a base malt, or basically it's just two-row pale malt. And also depending on the style of beer, but it's usually just a pale malt, and that gives the beer most of the alcohol content and most of the body itself. The rest of the color and the flavor comes from just small percentages of dark malt and crystal malts and roasted malts. And from there, when we run off the liquid from the mash, we would boil it and add hops. And during the boil, we add hops at different stages. In the beginning of the boil, hops are added to give the beer the bitterness, and then towards the end of the boil, the hops are added to give the beer the aroma. And then sometimes you can take it a step further and actually add hops to post-fermented beer, which is called dry hopping, and that gives it a really super aroma, much like you'd find in like IPAs. And this particular hop is Cascades, very piney and citrusy. It's a very classic California-style hop.
Where is this grown? I've never actually seen it.
Most of the hops in this country are grown in the Pacific Northwest, particularly in the area around northeast Oregon, southeast Washington, and western Idaho. The next step to making the beer is after it's all boiled and we have to pump it into a fermenter, is when we add the final ingredient, and this is the main ingredient. This is what makes beer, is the yeast. And there are hundreds and maybe thousands of different types of yeast that's out there. There's ale yeast, which this is an ale yeast. There's lager yeast, which makes pilsners and bocks and all that. And this will take about 2 weeks to ferment. And we ferment our beers at about between 68 and 72 degrees. And then about 2 to 3 weeks later, after fermentation usually takes about 5 days, and then there's a phase where you have to kind of let it sit for a little bit and reabsorb, reabsorb flavors and let things kind of meld together. You don't want to make your beer taste young or green, as it's called. And then about another week to 2 weeks of cold conditioning and just letting everything get really, you crash chill it and let everything kind of settle out, and we have beer. We move it into another tank, and we're fortunate here at Iron Springs is that our serving tanks are tapped directly to the bar, so the beer is very fresh.
And what type of beer will this yield?
This beer would probably make an Epiphany, which is our American style amber, and it's nice hoppy finish to it.
Filled to the brim.
Filled to the brim. And this beer is very cold, so there's not a huge head on it. The thing with carbonation levels is that as beer starts to warm up, you'll tend to get more
that foam,
more carbonation coming out of it.
I wasn't sure if that was a desired effect, but that's actually the temperature that affects.
That's just the temperature that affects it.
Okay.
It's super cold beer.
And as a matter of fact, this is one of your award-winning beers, right?
This won a bronze medal back in, I think, in 2004, 2005 at the World Beer Cup. So yeah, it's one of our flagships, definitely a standout, and it's one of our more popular ones. You can pair many different foods with one beer, or many different beers with just one style of food. Just a couple weeks ago, we did an oyster night here, where we had 3 different oysters from Tamaulipas Bay area, and we paired it up with 3 different of our porters. And we did porter 3 ways. We did a coffee porter, a regular porter that was on draft, and I did a cask conditioned porter, which is like an old world English style of like serving beer. It's dispensed a little bit warmer, and it's poured through a cask beer engine. So instead of it being pushed out of a tap, it's actually being drawn out through a piston engine mechanism. Porter and oysters, to me, is just a perfect pairing. You get the nice brininess of the oysters, and you got this nice roastiness from the porter, and they just seem to go very well together. We produce between we're trying to reach that 1,000 barrel mark.
Just 1,000.
Just 1,000. It's still very small. I think 1,000 barrels might be what some of the big boys produce in probably like 2 or 3 days. So we're still very small.
But so small that you actually hand label these bottles, right?
Hand bottle, hand cap them, and hand label them. Yeah. It's a labor of love.
And this, what I have in my hand here, is also one of your award-winning
beers.
beers.
That one, it's our Sless Oatmeal Stout that won a gold medal at the World Beer Cup last year in 2008. And that's very nice, very big, bold, roasty, higher alcohol beer. And it's one of those beers that goes very well at night, like a nightcap type of beer.
And so what would be the volume of alcohol in this?
That one, I believe, is a little over 8%.
Well, I've actually had 9% at one time, but boy, they served it in a little tiny glass like brandy.
Yeah, they can be pretty big. The third bottle there, the Casey Jones, that's 9.6%.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a double IPA, so it's a lot of malt and a really ton of hops, and gives it a big alcohol and big hop profile.
Well, I'm wondering if you can cook me up something right now so I can do a taste test.
That'd be great, yeah. It'd be fun.
Wait a minute, where's my cameraman going? I said the taste test is for me.